Quand part de votre travail questionne la mémoire, les lieux, les personnes qui habitent ou sont hantées par ces lieux, des lieux qui au départ sont ceux de votre quotidien et de celui de votre famille, de vos proches, mais aussi des lieux éloignés géographiquement de votre centre de gravité intime et qui vous sont a priori étrangers, comme dans la série Erasure After Nature, montrée ici même au musée, ou The Inhabitants, votre série exposée à la Fondation Cartier-Bresson du 9 octobre de cette année jusqu'au 5 janvier 2025. Est-ce que vous avez besoin d'une traduction en anglais? Est-ce que quelqu'un peut dire en français?
It is a pleasure to have you here for the Photobook Days, especially since Photobooks holds such an important place in your work, which is famous largely in the United States. We're hoping to learn more about it throughout this interview. It says that your work questions this book form, bringing it to unexpected directions, constantly playing with its possibilities but also its limits. You are American, you were born in Columbus, Ohio, and you currently live and work in the Hudson Valley. You studied social anthropology at the University of Ohio, and for more than 20 years you've been taking photographs that stand out thanks to their sensibility, their delicacy, their poetic reach, and the extreme care you give to all the parameters that come with photography as a way of expression. A great part of your work questions memory, places, and the people who inhabit them or are haunted by these places. These are places of your daily life where your families and loved ones live, but also places geographically further from your own intimate sphere, which are at first glance unknown to you, like in the series Erasure After Nature, displayed here within the museum, or in your work, The Inhabitants, exhibited at the Cartier-Bresson Foundation from the 9th of October until the 5th of January.
Alors je continue la présentation. Un lien existe cependant entre les deux catégories de territoires que j'ai citées, avec des bruits très différents, comme on entend dans vos images. La manière précise, patiente, discrète, dont vous les approchez en usant d'un regard photographique sensible aux variations de lumière et de texture, à la géométrie invisible et à la force métaphorique ou narrative que renferme toute espèce de paysage, jusqu'au plus désolé ou sous-estimé, ce qu'on voit tout à fait dans The Inhabitants. Et depuis 2009, vous avez fait paraître un grand nombre de livres dans un large éventail de formats, certains publiés par des maisons réputées telles que Mac ou Choses Communes, et d'autres, en majorité, que vous avez auto-édités de façon minutieuse et artisanale en une poignée d'exemplaires. Alors on peut montrer quelques images ici, donc nous avons The Inhabitants, et ici nous avons d'autres exemples de livres qui ont été fabriqués et auto-édités par Raymond Meeks. Parfois il s'agit d'objets uniques, ce qui leur confère alors un statut d'œuvre d'art à part entière. Ici on a Oxbow, qui date de 2011. On a également ici une page de Pretty Girls Wonder, 2014. Cet exemple d'un livre qui s'intitule Where Objects Fall Away, 2010. Vous mettiez en regard votre pratique photographique avec la pratique graphique du peintre américain Ty Twombly. Et je crois que la peinture d'ailleurs résonne beaucoup avec vos images, peut-être on pourra en parler tout à l'heure. Je termine cette présentation en signalant que votre travail est exposé dans des collections permanentes de la National Gallery of Art à Washington, à la George Eastman House de Rochester et à la Bibliothèque nationale de France à Paris. Bonne année.
So to go on with the introduction, in your images, a link emerges between those two kinds of territories, which are at first glance very different. The link being how precise and patient and discreet you are when you explore both of them through photography, and how attentive you are to changes of light from textures to the invisible geometry. You are also very aware of the metaphorical and narrative potential contained in landscapes, even the most arid and deserted ones. Since 2009, you have published many books in a wide range of formats, some published by renowned companies such as Mac, Shostoin, but many others that you have made yourself and self-published, and that you've made by hand meticulously in a few copies, and some even remained unique objects, giving them the full status of works of art. To conclude this introduction, I wanted to highlight that your work is exhibited in the permanent collection of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, and in the George Eastman House in Rochester, and the National Library of France in Paris.
Donc, tout d'abord, une question très simple. Raymond Meeks, considérez-vous le livre photo comme la forme d'expression artistique qui sied le plus à notre démarche d'auteur? Autrement dit, le livre photo est-il pour vous la concrétisation ultime de ce que vous poursuivez en tant que photographe?
First question, do you consider Photobook to be the artistic expression that best suits your own approach as an author? In other words, is Photobook for you the ultimate realization of what you perceive as an artist? What question? How about with you? Okay.
You're like, it's really, you were doing so well. I was convinced I would just get this.
If you're wrong, there is a nice coffee.
Nice coffee. Thank you. We've never met. This is our first time meeting. I have no idea what he's about to ask me, or fortunately, it's been kind. Thank you all for sitting in on this. I think to answer the question, I think the photo book for me presents the ultimate possibility. I don't think so much as narratively. Oftentimes, I think more about the way pictures that are aligned next to each other or in a sequence or a series have the potential to compound one another and create not only create something that feels like it's a transcendent or a transformative experience beyond what a single image can deliver. So you have two pictures next to each other, and if it's done the way that I prefer to do it, it generates a feeling, and it generates this third thing that comes out of these two things coming together, and it creates an energy, and it creates a feeling or a response that is indescribable. You wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, this picture and this picture can come together because they work together. Usually doesn't work that way. It's usually, I don't know why these work, but they're generating this feeling. And if I can say why it's working, it's generally too obvious, and so I don't do that, and I try not to do that. But mostly I appreciate it because unlike a single picture or an exhibition that is made for the wall, pictures that are individual oftentimes seem to lose their wildness, or they seem to lose their that feeling that I get initially. Whereas in a book, each time you come to the book, it has the potential to change the way you feel based on how you come into the book and how you change when you come to the book, your own emotional state, if you want to do the word.
First observation when discovering the book, it is the book of a photographer, but also one of a writer and a poet. The latter is named George Wells and wrote a poem that flows piece by piece throughout the book and creates its own motion, and also photographic sequences. Managing to make those two art forms coexist within the same ensemble is not an easy task. One can disrupt the other, reduce the reach or the impact of the other. I guess your agents already existed in like sports back then. Can you tell us how these words found their way and their spot in the book?
The words were written after the pictures were made, and they sort of came. George delivered the words at the last beginning, which had me completely unnerved. I would say also there was a lot of trust, and the words that we tried to achieve a balance. I'm not sure if this is answering your question, but we tried to achieve a balance where the words, neither the words nor the pictures were trying to do too much of the work. Where my concern was that the pictures recede a little bit to make room for George's words. That George's words were meant to invoke a presence of a human being, and in this case, invoke the presence to inspire the imagination to create a voice that could represent a displaced individual. Specifically, my proposal was set in Calais to focus on the life of the refugee. But ultimately, I didn't want to make a book, and George and I didn't want to make a book that closed down too closely around the refugee crisis, because that is an expanding, ongoing crisis that is globally in terms of involuntary or voluntary displacement. It's not a question of if we will at some point be displaced, it's a question of when. Either we'll be displaced or feel displaced in this world. And so there was this back and forth between George and I to create space for that our expressions, our forms create space for the other. So at times my pictures recede, and at times his voice recedes. And so it's this balance between visual language and written language, or voice.
Alors justement, il y a un particulier fort dans ce que vous venez de dire, vous ne montrez jamais aucune personne, aucun migrant. On a uniquement la mémoire de ces lieux qui sont occupés de manière éphémère et les obstacles qu'ils ont pu rencontrer sur leur chemin. Il y a donc une présence en creux de ces personnes. Pourquoi ce choix de ne pas les montrer? Et je voulais savoir si vous étiez allé à leur rencontre avant de photographier. Parce que je sais que vous ne photographiez pas dans une vie que vous avez besoin de s'immerger dans des contextes comme de photographie.
There is a strong stance in the book you never revealed to Paul. Only the memory of the places they stayed in temporarily and the obstacles they had to face on their way. So this is almost full of the presence. Why make this choice? Did you actually meet these people? Did you get to talk with them?
My proposal for this project included portraits of refugees. So when I came to France, I had a 4x5 with the camera and color film, and I volunteered for an agency called Care for Calais, which put me in a warehouse to package goods for refugees, asylum seekers. And it also put me out in encampments where the refugees were housed. And so I got to meet asylum seekers, and I started thinking about how I would approach for making portraits. But what I found was happening was that the interactions started to feel transactional. Like I was looking at them as a subject and when I looked at them as a subject, I was unable to sort of engage with their stories. And at a certain point, I realized that I would have to do one or the other. I would have to either lean into that transactional relationship, sort of be transparent about it, and make portraits of people, of the refugees. Or I could be present and listen to their stories and try to cultivate compassion and then take that out and make pictures, inhabiting that sort of, using my imagination to imagine their experience, but also cultivating compassion as a human being and going places and seeing signs and residues of that type of life, and then making photographs that were sort of channeled through that filter of compassion for that life, for their life.
À l'intérieur aussi, la taille et la disposition des images varient. Certaines sont isolées, d'autres fonctionnent en vis-à-vis. Certaines occupent toute une page, voire une double page. L'espace blanc de la page est habilement utilisé. On sent que cet editing a été mûrement réfléchi. Qu'est-ce qui a défini le rythme interne propre à ce livre? Est-ce que c'est une logique d'ordonnancement et d'association purement formelle, ou bien c'est thématique, ou alors ce sont des associations narratives, encore chronologiques? Est-ce que vous pouvez nous expliquer comment vous déterminez les séquences, la mise en séquence du livre et le montage?
Within the book, the size and arrangement of the images change. Some are isolated, some are facing each other, some take up the whole page, even 2 pages sometimes. And the blank space of the page is cleverly arranged. The editing was done with a lot of careful consideration. What defines the rhythm of this book? Is the arrangement and pairing of these images strictly formal, or is it narrative and chronological? Is there some kind of a logic?
I usually, when I'm trying to make something, I usually apply this mantra of first thought, best thought, or first idea, best idea, and not stop and evaluate, just try to get into a rhythm and try to make, and then get to a point, and then start to remove what's not necessary, and then start to build again. And that to me is still the ultimate creative expression is maybe visual art.
Kan saya jawab saat ini?